Okay, so hello everyone and welcome to our supplemental video. So this time we are now in the week 4 or lesson 4 of database management system, and we will be discussing about the enhanced ER or entity relational models. So at the end of the lesson, the learners or the students should be able to explain the enhanced ER models, identify the codes rule for relational database management system, and apply the basic relation concepts. So yan. So last meeting, na-tackle din natin yung about sa mga some of ER models. Yan. So today, as I said a while ago, is I will be discussing about the enhanced ER or entity relational models. But before I start my discussion, still I would like to remind those students who are not yet submitted the requirements to please do submit your requirements. Okay, so iwasan natin yung natatambakan tayo ng requirements para sa ganun ay hindi tayo mahirapan. Okay, so yan. And for those student na gustong mag-submit ng requirements, the schedule of submission is every Thursday and Friday morning. Pero pwede naman kayong mag-submit ng Monday to Wednesday, but hindi ko masigurado na all of your instructor will entertain you or accommodate nyo, ma-accommodate kayo. Kasi nga, we do also recording every Monday to Wednesday. Okay, so yan, kung sino lang yung available, is yun lang yung pwede mag-entertain sa inyo. So, yun. Okay, and of course, I would like also to remind that every time you watch this video or tong supplemental video na ito, or while listening, is please have with you your module para sa ganun ay mas mabilis nyong makafollow at yan yung magiging yung module nyo or printed module na meron sa inyo that would serve as your guide during if every time you watch this supplemental video. Yan. And for those student pala na who are not yet a member of our group chat or hindi pa na-add dun sa group chat natin, please notify me or sabihan nyo ako para sa ganun ay ma-add ko kayo dun sa group chat natin. So, importante na ma-add kayo sa group chat natin kasi nga, that is one of our way para makipag-communicate ako sa inyo at doon din ako nagdi-disseminate ng mga information. Especially doon din ako nag-upload, nag-announce kung may mga important reminders. And napapansin ninyo is may mga sinasend akong link doon sa group chat natin. So those are the link of the recorded videos or yung mga supplemental videos ninyo na ina-upload ko doon sa my YouTube channel namin. So those link is your access para ma-play or madalhin kayo or ma-access nyo yung YouTube channel namin wherein andun na lahat yung mga recorded supplemental videos. Okay, so pakiusap ko lang na if you have time or if you're not busy, pag wala kayong ginagawa, please do watch those supplemental videos kasi it really helps you a lot, guys, to understand better the printed module na meron sa inyo or to understand better the topic or the lesson na dinidiscuss natin. Okay? So yan. So wag niyo sanang hayaan na hindi niyo mapanood kasi nga gaya nga ng sinabi ko is makakatulong talaga sa inyo. So as a student, you do also your part para sa ganun ay alam naman natin ang hirap-hirap ng sitwasyon ngayon. So yun yung only way para ma-deliver namin ng maayos, para ma-accommodate namin kayo is nagre-record kami ng mga supplemental videos. Okay? So, yan. And of course, yung pag-distribute pala ng mga printed modules is every time na magsasubmit kayo ng mga requirements ninyo. Okay? So, yan. So again, welcome to our supplemental video. So, malapit na tayo. Nasa week 4 na tayo isang module na lang, then examination na. Okay? So, yan. So let's start with our discussion. Ayan. So, ulitin ko lang is dapat meron sa inyo yung or hawak-hawak niyo yung mga printed module ninyo, okay? Para sa ganun ay mabilis kayong makafollow. Kasi hindi lahat ng mga nasa PowerPoint na pinapakita ko ay tawag doon ay complete. So, may mga keywords lang ako nilagay. So, mas maganda na hawak-hawak yung mga printed module. Okay? So, yan. So, those are my friendly reminders. So, I hope na na-remind na naman kayo. Kahit paulit-ulit kong i-remind sa inyo, okay lang yan. Okay, so let's start with our discussion. So, so as I said a while ago, we will be discussing about enhanced ER models. So, yan. So, napapansin nyo na-encounter nyo na siguro ito. Ewan ko kung na-encounter nyo na ito. Siguro may mga teachers or may mga instructor kayo na napahapyaw sa topic na mga ito or itong mga models na ito. So we have here the enhanced ER models. So as the complexity of the data increased in the late 1980s, so it became more and more difficult to use the traditional ER models for database modeling. So itong mga ER models na ito is ginagamit ito for database modeling. So ito yung parang nagiging guide nila, nagiging basis nila, especially pag nagcreate sila ng database or dun sa database modeling. Okay, so hence some improvements or enhancement were made to the existing of the ER model to make it able to handle the complex application better. Kasi dati is dati kasi is yung especially sa mga traditional ER models is mas mahirap kasi yon dati yung mga ER models na intindihin. So unlike ngayon na medyo they make a way para sa ganun ay maging simple yung mga ER models for database modeling para sa ganun ay mas mabilis maintindihan or to understand it better. Yan. So hence, as a part of the ER model or enhanced ER model, so along with the other improvements, we have three concepts were added dun sa existing ER models natin. So they are yung generalization and your specialization and your aggregation. So let's understand what they are. So and why were they added dun sa existing ER models natin. So try natin na pag-aralan or intindihin kung ano kung ano nga ba itong mga ito at bakit sila na-add dun sa may or naidagdag dun sa may ER model natin. Okay, so for number one, you have there the generalization. So when we say generalization, ang sabi dito is the higher level entity can also combine with other lower level entities para maging how one or to make further a higher level entity. So itong generalization na ito is isa siyang bottom-up approach in which we have two lower level entities which is combined para sa ganun or to form a higher level entity. So dito sa may generalization, yung higher level entity is pwedeng i-combine with other or pwedeng i-combine doon sa may ibang lower level entities. Para sa ganun is to make further high level entity. Okay? So, yan. So, it is more like yung superclass and yung subclass system sana. So, meron tayong, yan. So as I said a while ago, para siyang, parang it is more on like na para siyang yung sa may superclass and yung subclass system. Pero, yung difference lang is yung approach. Okay? So, which is yung bottom up. Okay? So, hence, yung entities are combined to form a more generalized entity. So in other words, is yung subclass are combined para mag-form siya ng super class. Okay? So for example, saving and yung current account types entities can be generalized as you can see dyan sa figure natin. That is an example. So for example sana, yung saving, kung napapansin nyo dyan, you have saving there and yung current account is a types of entities can be generalized and an entity with name account can be created with covers both. Okay? So, yan. So, nakita nyo dyan. So, you have there the account and then you have the saving and yung current. So, bottom-up approach. Yan. So, bottom-up. So, when you say bottom-up, pataas. Okay? So, yan. So, which is, yung savings and yung current is, pwede silang, sabi ko nga dyan is, types entities can be generalized and yung entity with the name na account can be created with covers both. Okay? So, that is the account. Okay? So, yan. So, next is you have the specialization. Okay? So, yung specialization naman is opposite naman ng generalization. Okay? So, it is a top-down naman approach siya. So, kanina yung generalization is a bottom-up approach. So, dito naman sa specialization is, sabi dyan, is a top-down approach naman siya. Which one higher level entity can be broken down into two lower level entities. So, dito sa may specialization, yung higher level entity may not have any lower level entity sets. So, it's possible. Okay, so wala siyang lower level entity sets. So, as you can see dyan, so student or example is student, then current is student. So, is A, then student. So, top-down approach siya. So, pababa po siya. Okay? Sorry. So, okay, so yan. So, yan. So, we have also here the aggregation. Okay, so yung aggregation naman is isa siyang process when a relation between two treated as a simple entity. Okay? So, dyan in the diagram, kung napapansin nyo, yung in the diagram, yung relation between yung center and yung cores together. So, you have there, center and cores. So, yung dalawa is acting as an entity. So, which is yung relation with another entity, which is the visitor. So, now, in real world, yung if a visitor or a student visits a coaching center, he or she will never inquire about the center only or just about the course. Rather, she or he will inquire about both, 'di ba? So hindi lang siya magtatanong siguro sa about sa course. So ibig sabihin is pwedeng both. Okay? So yan. So that is for the aggregation. Okay? So yan. So next slide. So those are the three types of three types or a new concepts were added dun sa existing ER or entity relational model natin. Okay? So we have the generalization, specialization, and aggregation. Yun yung mga bagong na idagdag dun sa ER models natin. Next is you have the codes rule for relational database. So, feeling ko, familiar naman kayo siguro dito. Sorry. Okay, so feeling ko familiar kayo dito sa codes rule, for relational database management system. So, itong EF code was a computer si EF code was a computer scientist na siya yung nag-invent ng relational model for database management. So, based on yung relational model, the relational database was created. So, nagpropose si Code ng 13 rules, popularly known as yung Code's 12 rules to test yung database management systems concept against his relational model. So si Code's rule actually define what quality a database management system requires in order to maging relational database management system or maging RDBMS siya. So until now, there is hardly any commercial product that follows all the 13 codes rule. So even yung Oracle is follows only 8.5 or 8.5 out of 13. So we have here the following codes rule. So yan, we have here the 12 rules or the codes rule. So yan, so first is you have the rule 0. Yan, so rule 0 So this rule state that for a system to qualify as an relational database or DBMS, so it must be able to yung ma-manage yung database entirely through yung sa may relational capabilities. So for the rule number 1, you have there the information rule. So yan. So ano nga bang ibig sabihin ng information rule na to? So ibig sabihin lahat ng information including yung metadata is to be represented as stored data doon sa cells of tables. So yung rows and yung columns have to be strictly unordered. Okay? So yan kaya information rule. Number 2, you have the rule number 2 is yung guaranteed access. So when we say guaranteed access, so lahat ng every piece of or every unique piece of data which is the atomic value. So should be accessible by yung table name plus yung primary key or yung row plus yung attribute which is the column. Okay, ulitin ko lang. So lahat daw ng unique piece of data should be accessible by the table name plus yung primary key which is the row, and yung columns have to be I mean yung attribute which is the column. Okay? So note lang na yung ability to directly access via pointer is a violation of this rule. Okay? So always take note of that. Okay? So for rule number 3, you have the systematic treatment of null. So, yung null have a several meaning. So, pwedeng yung missing data, so not possible, not applicable, or no value. So, pwede yun, okay? So, it should be handled consistently. Also, yung primary key must not be null. So, hindi pwedeng maging null yung primary key. So, expression on null must give null. Okay? So, expression on null must give null. So that is for the systematic treatment of null. And we have also here the rule number 4. So for the rule number 4 is you have active online catalog. So dito sa may database dictionary or yung catalog natin, ito yung structure description of the complete database, and it must be stored online siya. So yung catalog is kailangan be governed by the same rule as rest of the database. So, yung same query language should be or dapat siyang gamitin doon sa catalog as used to query database. Okay? So, yan yung active online catalog. And for rule number 5, you have the powerful and well-structured language. So, ibig sabihin, yung unwell-structured language is kailangan na uh, uh, must be there para makapag-provide lahat ng or provide all manners of access doon sa data na naka-store doon sa my database. So for example is yung SQL or etc. 'Di ba? So if yung database is inallow niya yung access doon sa data without the use of this language, then that is a violation. So hindi po pwede 'yon. Okay? So ulitin ko, pagka yung database is inallow niya yung access doon sa my data without the use of this language sana, then that is a violation. Okay? So that is powerful and well-structured language. And we have rule number 6, so view updation rule. So when we say view updation rule is lahat ng view that is theoretically updatable should be updatable by the system as well. So pag may mga update or na-update kayo, dapat is updatable din doon sa may system. Okay? So yan. Next is you have the relational level operation. So, ibig sabihin, kailangan din na mayroong insert, delete, and update operation sa lahat ng level ng relations. So, you have the set operation like yung union, intersection, and yung and minus should be also be supported. Okay? So, yan. And for rule number 8, you have the physical data independence. So, ibig sabihin, yung physical storage ng data should not matter to the system. If say, so, karamihan sa mga files supporting yung table is rename or na-move siya from one disk to another. So, it should not affect the application. Okay? So, yan. So, that is for the physical data independence. Next is you have the rule number 9. So when we say rule number 9 is a logical data independence. So if there is a change doon sa may logical structure or doon sa table structure ng database, so kailangan yung user or the user view of data should not change. Okay? So ibig sabihin, yung table is split into two tables, so a new view should give a result as the join of the two tables. So this rule is most difficult to satisfy. So yan. Okay? So next is you have rule number 10. Okay, so for the rule number 10, you have integrity independence. Okay, so what do I mean by integrity independence? So, ibig sabihin, yung database should be able to enforce yung sarili niyang integrity rather than dun sa paggamit ng ibang programs. So, key and check, constraint, trigger, etc. should be stored doon sa may data dictionary. Para sa ganun ay this also make yung database management system independent of front end. Okay? So, that is integrity independence. And for number 12, ay 11, rule number 11. So, ito na yung distribution independence. So, ibig sabihin, yung kailangan yung database natin should work siya or dapat mag-work siya ng maayos. Regardless or yung property niya is dapat maayos. Regardless of its distribution across doon sa may network. So, even yung database natin is geographically distributed with data stored in pieces. So, the end user should get an impression which is stored doon sa may same place, okay, or the same place. So this lays the foundation of distributed database, okay. So that is for rule number 11. And for the rule number 12, which is the non-subversion rule. So if yung low-level access is allowed to a system, it should not be able to subvert or bypass yung integrity rules to change the data. So this can be achieved by some sort of looking or encryption. Okay? So those are the rules of or the codes rule of for relational or database management system. Okay, so let's move on to our next slide. Okay, so we have also here the relational database or what is a table. So I know, I believe naman na alam nyo kung anong ibig sabihin ng table. So, here in the basic database management concept, so yung database concept natin is a database management system based doon sa relational model which is introduced by EF Code. So, doon sa may relational model, so yung data is stored siya in relations or doon sa table. And is represented in form of tuples or yung rows natin. So, itong database management natin is ginagamit ito to manage yung relational database. Which is yung relational database natin is isa siyang collection of organized sets of table related to each other and from which data can be accessed easily. Okay, so it is also most commonly na ginagamit na database in today's generation or nowadays. Okay, so yan. So let's talk about table. So dito sa may relational database model natin, yung table na tinatawag natin, isa siyang collection ng data elements which is organized in terms of yung rows and yung columns natin. So usually naman, ang laging content ng table is or it contains rows and columns yung table natin. So parang yung Microsoft Excel natin, yung parang yung table doon is that is a table which is contains rows and columns. So pwede sa Microsoft, 'di ba? Insert tables, 'di ba? Ang laging napapansin niyo is may mga line na pataas at pahiga. So those are tables. Okay, so yung table also is considered as yung convenient representation of relation. Pero yung table can have duplicate rows of data while a true relation cannot have a duplicate data. Okay? So yung table is ito na yung pinaka-simplest form of data storage natin. So we have here the example. So as you can see there, yung ID which is contain ID, name, age, and salary. So that is an example of a table. So, yung mga nakikita nyo na nasa loob na, which is yung 1, 2, 3, 4, we have Adam, Alex, Stuart, Ross. Those are the data na naka-store dyan sa may tables natin, which is, yan, okay, yung table natin. So, yan. So, next is we have tuple. So, hindi ko nalagay. So, yan. So, ang tuple naman is, isa siyang a single entry in a table is called tuple or record or row. So, yung tuple natin is, isa siyang table represents a set of related data. For example, yung example natin is yung single record or tuple. So, example dyan is, ang tuple dyan is you have the 1, Adam, 34, 1, 10, 13, 13,000. So, yun lang. Yung row na yun, yung row na yun, which is ang data niya is 1, tapos yung Adam, 34, and 13,000, that is a tuple. Okay? So, yan. So, what is an attribute naman? Hindi ko kasi nalagay dito. Okay, so yan yung tuple. So, yan yung example ng tuple. So, 1, Adam, 34, and 13,000. Okay, so we have also here what is an attribute. So, ano ang attribute? Okay, so you have there the attribute domain. So, yung attribute is a table consists of several records or yung row. So, each record can be broken down into several smaller parts of data, which is, ang tawag natin is yung attributes. So, for example is yan. So, the above employee table consists of 4 attributes. So, we have yung ID, name, age, and yung salary natin. So, yan. So, name, so we have there. So, ang sabi dyan is pwede siyang broken down in several smaller parts. So, yan. Okay, so that is an example of the attribute. Okay? So, yan. So, for the attribute domain, so, pagka yung attribute is defined in a relational or relation or table, it is defined to hold only a certain type of value. So, which is known as yung attribute domain natin. So, the attribute name will hold the same name of employee for every tuple. So, if we save employee's address there, so it will be violation of the relational database model. So, yun. So, violation na yung nangyari dyan na meron siyang nilagay na employee address dyan. Okay? So, yan. So, next. So, next slide. So, wait lang. Okay. So, next is slide. So, we have what is relation schema. Okay, so a relation schema describes the structure of relation. So, with the name of the relation, name of table, its attributes, and their names and types. So, that is relation schema, yung pangalan ng relation mo or yung name of yung table mo, tapos yung attributes, tapos their names and their types. So, what type of data is that, di ba? So, yan. So, that is relation schema. So, what is a relation key? So, ano naman ang relation key? Okay, so every relation in a relational database model should abide by or follow a few constraints to be valid relation. So, these constraints are called yung, ito na yung tinatawag natin, relational integrity constraints. So, there are 3 integrity constraints. So, you have the key constraints, and you have the domain constraints, and you have the referential integrity constraint. Okay, so ano nga ba itong pag-usapan muna natin yung una. So, ano nga ba itong key constraints na ito? So, di ba, when we say key constraints, pagka nag-store tayo ng data doon sa table, so, to later access it whenever required. So, in every table, pwedeng one or more than attributes together ay pwedeng gamitin para ma-fetch yung data from the tables. So, yung key constraint is specify that there should be such an attribute or there should be a column in a relational or in a relation or dun sa table. So, which can be, gagamitin na natin to fetch yung data for any tuple or dun sa row. So, yung key attribute should never be null, or the same for 2 different rows of data. So, for example, dun sa may employee table, pwede nating gamitin yung uh, yung attribute ID to fetch data of each of the employee. So no value of ID is null and it is unique for every row. So hence it can be our key attribute. So ibig sabihin, fetch data is pwede na natin kunwari, i-type lang natin yung ID number, is pwede na natin mag-gather or makita yung information ng employee na yon. So pwede lang yon. Okay? So that is key constraints. Okay? So next is you have the domain constraints. So, a domain constraints refers to the rule defined for the values that can be stored doon sa may certain attributes. So, like what I explained kanina, we cannot store address doon sa may employee, doon sa column name. So, kasi nga, pag once na may address doon, kunwari, employee name, tapos may nidagdag doon na Tabuk City, Kalinga. So, once na meron na kalagay doon or naka-store doon na address, that would be violation. Okay? So yan. So ganun din sa number sana na kunwari naglagay ka ng number na kulang 10 lang yung nailagay mo na number, so contact number. So that would also a violation. Okay? So yan. So next is we have the referential integrity constraints. So we will going to study this later or soon. So from now, remember this example. So if I say Supraya is my girlfriend, then a girl with name Supraya should also exist for that relationship to be present. Okay? So if a table reference to some data from another table, then that table and that data should be present for referential integrity constraint to hold true or para maging totoo. Okay? So yan. Okay, so those are the relational integrity constraints. Okay, so next slide. Okay, so that ends our topic for today, which is the enhanced ER models. Okay, so if you have any question, I hope you understand our topic for today, the different ER model or entity relations model. So if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to ask me through my personal messenger or dun sa GC natin. Okay? So wag lang kayong mahiya na magtanong. Okay? So yan. And of course, I would like also to discuss to you our requirements. Okay? So yan. So for your week 4 requirements, so you have 2 activities. So for number 1, you will going to answer the following questions into 5 to 10 sentences. Okay, so yan. So for number 1 question, explain the different keys available in a relational model. And for number 2, explain what do you understand in Code's relational database rule. And for number 3, when do we use primary key in database table? So yan. And for activity number 2, so you will going to create a database table. Okay, so dito is kailangan gumamit kayo ng database. So if you have laptop at home, so you can use your laptop. If you do not have your laptop, is pwede kayong pumunta dito sa school for consultation. Para sa ganun ay magamit ninyo. You can use the computer here in the library or you can use the computer laboratory of the school. So meron po tayo. So welcome po kayo. Okay? So, you will going to create a database table. So, ang pangalan is employee. So, meron siyang 5 na fields. So, 5 na fields. So, yung fields na yon is contains ID, employee name, age, position, and salary. Okay, so enter at least 20 records for all fields. Print a copy of your output or send it to our FBGC when directed. Or pwede nyong ilagay sa may, how do you call that one? Sa may flash drive or sa blank disk. Okay? So, and then pwede yung isubmit sa akin. Pero kung wala kayong mga external storage, you can print your output and then you can pass it to me. Okay? So, yan. So, those are your requirements for today's topic or yeah. Okay? So, if you have any questions, please contact me through my personal messenger. So thank you guys for listening and I will be expecting you to submit your requirements anytime this week. And mag-iingat tayo palagi. Keep your immune system strong. Always wear your face mask every time you go out. Then, ano pa ba? Sanitize your hands. Maghugas kayo ng kamay ninyo palagi. Okay? And maintain social distancing, especially sa mga crowded places. Okay? Mag-iingat po tayo lagi. God bless us all. And thank you for your patience and thank you for listening.